Hello everybody, Buddy Webb, Midland, Texas. Going to do a little video for you today. It's a little sad really, but I think you're going to be amazed when I show you this. I guess amazed, it's kind of getting to be typical. But yesterday I was tagged on this Facebook post, okay? And here is this Christina tags me on this, and what it was is the Facebook group's called Odessa, Midland, Nosy People. I wasn't a member at the time, and here's a woman called Stephania Martinez News. Hi guys, has anybody been a victim of stalking or witnessed sex trafficking? Okay, and that's when I got tagged, and she says she's right, and she says Buddy Webb has multiple videos on his page about this. If there's anyone in this area that could speak on this, it definitely would be him. Stephanie Martinez needs to interview him, and everyone else should check out his page. I mean, since you're doing a story on this, Stephanie, I couldn't think of a better subject to interview. Okay, and so that's how I found out about this or whatever. And it was my understanding we're going to be on Big Two on ABC. Okay, KMID. Okay, and so I sent her, actually, I sent her an email. I want to show you. That was yesterday. I sent this email called Human Trafficking Sex Ring in Midland, Odessa. I sent two more today. One was on confidential Haley Dunn letter. That was a letter that I recently sent out to law enforcement with evidence on the Haley Dunn murder. And she had asked me, and I'm going to show you in a minute. She asked me, "Have you contacted law enforcement?" And I said, "I've contacted law enforcement more times than I count." I mean, I probably have 100 emails to the sheriff, over 100 to the Texas Rangers. I mean, Crime Stopper tips. You name it. The Attorney General. I've contacted law enforcement. Okay, so here we'll just look at her. This is her page, World Talk, Stephanie Martinez News, right here, and so here was this. Anybody been a victim? Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what I wrote on there. Let me get back to it. This is in the public, okay? And this is the same thing I emailed, because I copied it from the email and I posted this right here, and it went onto this Facebook group, Odessa, Midland, Nosy People. And I said, Stephanie, a friend contacted me and said that KMID was doing a story about human trafficking in our area, and I told her that I'd contacted all of the news agencies here more times than I count with lots of evidence. She suggested that maybe you were a good reporter, so I thought I would contacted you directly. The timing was interesting because just last night I created and posted a video called Odessa Police Involved in Sex Trafficking Ring Murder, and I put a link to it. As seen in that video, one woman told me in the last few days about witnessing a sex trafficking ring murder in Odessa that an Odessa police officer was involved in. I have a print screen for proof. Another woman told me that she was going to the oil show parties long before she was 18 years old. I was already convinced that child sex trafficking was going on at these famous parties, as my friend Angie Mungia Herrley told me about a young girl that was murdered at one of those parties in 2010, but she didn't want a prostitute. That's why the girl was murdered. At the time, Angie was leaving my home and at the parties in 5 minutes, and I know this because we were talking on the phone while she drove there. That can be verified by phone records. In 2013, the remains of a 14 to 21-year-old girl was found outside of Midland, who I suspected was the girl that Angie told me about. There's a Crime Stoppers on that. It's my belief those parties and this forced prostitution murder happened in some secret underground homes that multiple people are now documented as saying are here. This should be a national headline news story. I secretly recorded one woman who told me there were 4 3-bedroom, $1 million underground homes here, and they were having pedophile parties down there. You can hear that phone call for yourself in this video, and I put a link to $1 million underground facilities. During the election for Midland Sheriff, I was talking to Sheriff candidate Joe Lozano on the phone, and he told me these underground homes was the hideout for the late Sheriff Gary Painter. You can hear that phone call in this video. A CAD programmer named Layla O'Brien told me that she worked on this underground project, which was completed in 1987 at a budget of $7.35 million. She said it was called the Safe House Project. It was put in for then Vice President George H.W. Bush. I have screenshots and recordings from Layla, too. Rhonda Denman Rogers told me in a Facebook conversation that an underground facility was a half block from my home. I've suspected that it may be an empty lot around the corner from my home next to a home on Westmont Court that had the same weird mortar problem my home had. I have a print screen for this too. Tish Ann Wilkinson Brumley told me, I've had friends and been involved in these oil show parties. They're exactly what you say. They're underground homes. My sister used to do the oil show parties. I have a print screen for this too. If you look up my address of 3802 Fair Circle on maps.google.com, then you'll see a large building in my backyard on the map screen that can't be seen from above ground or on the sat screen. I believe this is one of the underground homes that I was told about and where the oil show parties were going on in 2010 when the young girl was murdered. Ricky Ronaldo told me that he and his brother used to go in the tunnels under my home when they lived in this house. I have a print screen for this too. On January 28, 2012, I was ambushed and shot by somebody under my home with burglar alarms going off in my attic and my phone lines cut. This was a premeditated, capital attempted murder, and it's a miracle that I'm alive. Back then, all I had was this crazy story, and they used this against me and called me crazy, but that doesn't work anymore. Now there's undeniable proof showing that I wasn't shot with my gun, proof of almost 50 other homeowners reporting people in the attic with a dozen addresses in Midland, another dozen in Odessa, and multiple people documented as saying that tunnels and underground homes are here. In 2019, evidence was found that placed police under my home that night, and I have reason to believe a party was going on then too. On July 2nd, 2019, I met Homeland Security at the Home Depot store directly by my home, and I showed them where I believed the tunnel was located, going from there to the underground home in my backyard. I found that by looking at historical maps on Google Earth. 2 weeks later, the ground was dug up and concrete was poured, but I got this on video and it went viral. 2 more weeks, and U.S. Congressman Mike Conaway resigned. His late brother-in-law used to live at 3809 Fair Circle, directly across the street from my home. 3 months later, U.S. Secretary of DHS McClellan resigned, and 6 days later, U.S. Secretary of Energy Rick Perry resigned. I suspected that some multi-billion-dollar oil companies were leaning on them to help cover up the oil show party murder. The young previous owner of my home, Mike Lawhon, died the week before the 2008 oil show started. I was told it was an accident, but I found evidence that has convinced me that he was murdered here and taken to Fort Worth. The Odessa American posted a death notice for him, said he died in Fort Worth, but then 4 days later they posted a second death notice and changed the location of death to say he died at his residence. A former neighbor, Marilyn DeLuigi, told me twice that Mike died in this house, and she also said somebody else died before he did. A local businessman named Aaron Beckhofer told me that 4 people had been murdered, died in my home. I have the print screen for that. This isn't the whole story, but it should be easy to see that it's enough to get you a Pulitzer if you're sincerely trying to stop human trafficking. Buddy Webb, and I put a link to the video, the 2010 oil show party murder. That's an older video. Okay. And then surprisingly, I was truly, sincerely surprised when I got this message back yesterday. It said, wow, thank you. I'm so sorry you had to experience this and those people involved. Is there a way I can speak with you on camera tomorrow to air this awareness, And I said, thank you, and I'll be glad to. I couldn't believe it, And here was last night. Do you mind messaging me your number? Then we can contact you in the morning to set up a time. Okay. So here I am, I'm excited thinking, finally found a reporter, that's not trying to cover up murders, crime, corruption, and murders. And interestingly, when I sent that email right here, I blind carbon copy. I'm going to show you here. Blind carbon copy on here. Don Huffnines, he's running for governor, okay? I wanted him to see what I just read to y'all. He's running for governor, okay? I blind carbon copy, and that way he sees the email, but Stephania doesn't know that he's seen the email and it's going to the press, Because, I was really surprised, actually, to get that back, what happened was, one, I couldn't even sleep all night, because I'm so excited, right? I get, and here I'm up today, and I'm preparing the evidence, and what I want to do is I just copied everything I just wrote to you that was posted on the internet right here, and I just went line by line by line, and I went and picked up the evidence, that's what, because, it's one thing for me to say it, it's another thing when I show you the print screen, here, I was a former escort, and I went to almost every oil show in Midland, Odessa, I was 16, 17 at the time, and they would prefer us younger girls. This is a woman, and she's verified, but see, I kept her anonymous because because these are dangerous criminals and we have a police corruption problem, and I don't want people to get killed, okay? She didn't even ask me to keep her anonymous. And then here was another woman at the same day, and she's the one that told me she was over there caught up in a human sex trafficking ring in Odessa, orchestrated at the motels, whatever, witnessed 2 black guys shoot and kill someone behind the motel while the police looked out. The whole time the officer watched me as I was traumatized as what I was witnessing, These are private messages. I have the Facebook private messengers for these conversations right here, for proof. But I'm just not ready. I don't think, I don't think it's time to put their names out there. When they get ready, they can do that. And so here I want to show you, here, go to Google Maps, look up my address. Here in the backyard, you see a big building in the backyard, and no building above ground. Obviously, that's one of the 4 underground homes. You can see it on Google Maps, And here's the Crime Stoppers of the young 14 to 21-year-old black girl, okay? I mean, that's the girl that was found not long after, here. $1 million underground facilities. That's the short version of the woman telling me that there was 4 3-bedroom underground homes. Said they're having pedophile parties down here. This is the short version of Sheriff candidate Joe Lozano during the election is telling me on the phone that Sheriff Painter used to hide out in these underground homes. Okay, this one here. Like Layla O'Brien, she's the CAD programmer. She's the one that told me she worked on this project. It was $7.35 million. I said, Miles, no, million on permit. And interestingly, a woman from Dallas comes down, Julia Weideman, and she's an expert on these permit records, right? She schedules a meeting with the city, and then they tell her with a big old smile on their face that all the permits got accidentally deleted in 2014. That's what she asked. She said, and when I asked him about the permit records for storm shelters, he, with a smile, told me that all permit records prior to 2015 had been destroyed or lost due to an attempt to digitize the department's records in 2014, 2015. Okay, and here's Layla going, yeah, it was on permit right here. It's on, there's records of this. She also said they built a school. She told me the company she worked for, PBK, they built a school here in Midland too. This was the only underground project. I recorded her on the phone. There ain't no doubt that that's true. Okay, here I've got her LinkedIn. This is Layla O'Brien. She's a CAD design professional. She worked for PBK. Okay, just like she said. Okay. Okay, that looks like the same thing. Here we go. Here, this woman, Rhonda Denman Rogers, tells me that that underground facility is a half block from my home. She didn't say 2 blocks, 3 blocks, 4 blocks. She knew exactly where it was. Rhonda knows where the underground home is over here. Right? I'm thinking it's in this empty lot right next to that water well, because this home had a mortar problem just like my home had. That's the home on Westmont Court. That's what I was saying, Here, this one. This is all, it's not Buddy said that she said. I'm taking print screens, Here's Jessica right here, Lee Hadley. I've been to 2,000 old shows. I tell you, it's more than just that one girl that was murdered or raped because she didn't want to do whatever they wanted her to do. Here's Tisha Ann Wilkinson Brumley. I've had friends been involved in little show parties. They're exactly what you say. They are underground homes, okay? And more there. It's just proof here. It's just all to verify the story that this young girl was murdered. And then you go to Google Earth Maps here, and you see where the ground was cut here, coming out of the back of Home Depot directly at my house. I believe that was the tunnel used by the people going to the oil show parties. I showed that to Homeland Security, who's supposed to stop human trafficking, and 2 weeks later, they poured concrete back here. And here's where the underground home is in my backyard. You can see it on the Google Maps here. That's what that is. This is a list of all the many people documented saying underground homes are here. I mean, it's an absurd amount of evidence. Ricky Ronaldo down here. He said, when I was a kid, there were tunnels under the house, and me and my brother would always go down there. He said he used to live in my house. Ricky did. See, law enforcement could talk to these people if they wanted to solve that murder. Here's another video, crawl and scream. And basically I told her I'm ambushed and shot with my phone lines cut. And the reason I was crawling out, and that's what it's showing me crawling out, is because my phone lines were cut. You know, this here is just a print screen showing, here's evidence showing that I wasn't shot with my gun. Size of pellets removed my foot, 2.5 sizes different. The surgeon removed a large amount of plastic, wouldn't be there if I shot with a shotgun. The CSI picked up my gun, did not check an empty shell, which would have been in my gun had I'd shot myself, okay? If I'd been shot at a point-blank range 12-gauge shotgun, I wouldn't have a foot. There wasn't enough physical room for me to be shot with a 4-foot long. Lisa Rogers documented telling me I was shot with a 45. Detective Rodriguez lying and saying there was a tripwire on my gun, and there's no tripwire in evidence, and none of the other 10 officers mentioned a tripwire, including the CSI that picked up my gun, you know? I mean, it's just absurd right there. I wasn't shot with my gun. That means somebody under my home shot me. That's a premeditated capital attempted murder that police were involved in. That's why nothing's happening here. Police were involved in. Okay, here, and I also said my phone lines were cut. Here's one of the pictures from my security camera in my bedroom. They had tried to disable this camera, didn't know they were on camera. Detective Rosie Rodriguez is leaned over the nightstand. That's where my stolen cell phone was found, planted. I believe she was planting my cell phone. And the reason I believe that's because she made up a lie on the police report, and she said right here, Buddy said his phone was not charged, so he went outside and screamed for help. I didn't say that. That was a lie. My phone was fully charged. I had a cordless phone in my pocket because my cell phone had been stolen. The cell phone she's planting, you know. I mean, the cordless set on the charger all the time is fully charged. She made up that lie. That was excuse making. Okay. Here's another one, attic calls. We've heard that one how many times? Of all the many homeowners here that reported people in the attic since I was ambushed and shot with burglar alarms going in my attic, you know, documented, you know. I mean, I said there was people, you know, I got the police reports showing I reported people in the attic. It's documented that I was saying people were in the attic on the night that I was shot. This is a list of 42 addresses for people all over the country that I've documented with addresses, phone calls, emails, print screens of people reporting in the attic. I mean, there's just so much proof. It's just nuts, okay? I showed Homeland Security where I believe that human trafficking tunnel was. Remember, I showed you 2 weeks later, they're pouring concrete. You know, I mean, Homeland that is supposed to stop human trafficking is helping the human trafficking murderers, right? And then I get it on video, and just a few days later, U.S. Congressman Mike Conaway from Midland announces his retirement. Come to find out, his brother-in-law used to live across the street from my home, right? My rig for murder home with the underground home in the backyard. I mean, yeah, it's amazing. Here's 3 months after that video went viral. U.S. Secretary of Homeland Kevin McGlennon resigns October 11th. 6 days later, U.S. Secretary of Energy Rick Perry resigns October 17th. This is 3 months after the viral video of concrete being poured right where I showed Homeland where a human trafficking murder tunnel was at. I believe that the multi-billion-dollar oil companies were leaning on them to cover up this oil show party murder, and then they got caught pouring concrete. Okay. And then the last thing on that list, that's what I'm going over, is everything I posted in the public to this reporter, right? Mike Lawhon, the previous young owner of my home. He died the week before the 2008 oil show started. Ain't that amazing coincidence? The week before the oil show starts. And the Odessa American post the first death notice, says he died in Fort Worth. And then 4 days later, they post a second death notice and change the location of death to say he died at his residence, right? And that confirmed what the neighbor told me. The neighbor told me twice that Mike died in this house. And then Aaron Packelhofer here told me 4 people had been murdered, died in my home. I have the print screen. That's not my word against Aaron's word. That's what he told me. I have the print screen. And then the city of Midland grants Aaron Packelhofer $72,000 to start up his dream business. Lots of people were asking if taxpayers' money was used for hush money to cover up capital murders in these underground homes. So that, you know, you can see here all the evidence. And this was additional evidence right here. I was planning on showing the reporter, Stephania. But then, guess what happened? Yep, you got it. You got it. Here we go. We backed out at the last minute, And, I'm sorry, man. For some reason, can we Zoom 3:30? Because it was going to be this morning. And then I waited all morning. And then she said 3:30. And I said, sure, 3:30, fine. Okay, 3:30. And I'm sending her more evidence. And some evidence I send her right here, is this. 2 minutes. 2 minutes. I'm going to make it quicker. There.
Cigarette smoke. You took her family. They're going to be waiting out front.
31-6 Geneva. Caller stating that he heard someone in the attic.
610 Jeter. Complainant's going to be a 7-year-old male. Stating he can hear yelling and fighting. His mother's in the attic. He can hear her being assaulted.
So I played that many times, but I just wanted you to know that the reporter got it, okay? I said, yes, 3:30 is great. I said, I live in the house that has the underground bunker in the backyard where they were having oil show parties and they murdered a little girl. And I sent her that screen there, okay? And I said, I'm going to send you an email that I sent about Haley Dunn. Well, y'all seen that email right there, okay? And so here we go. Do you know the officer involved in the ring murder for the OPD? And I said, no, ma'am. She didn't tell me the name, and I kept her anonymous for her own safety, even though she didn't specifically ask me to. I plan on reporting this to the police, too, but it seems like everything I say is ignored. She sounded believable to me. And she was the sister of the woman, told me she was going to oil show parties long before she was 18. This woman said that she was drugged and kidnapped. She told me she was going to make a video about that and send it to me a couple of days ago. I told her that I wanted to see these criminals held accountable. Has she reported to the police? And I said, I don't know. I said, I cannot air it if I don't official information about crimes. So I'll get back to you on this after I talk to the authorities. I said, that is only one crime, as there's proof of hundreds of burglaries. I showed you a video a minute ago. I need reports that go along with your proof. Okay. I said, this isn't, she said, this isn't I said, she said. I have the Facebook messages. I have the police reports for when I called and reported police in the attic. And I also have the police reports when my Vivint alarm system, my attic, called the police here. I also have the recordings directly from my police scanner, emails, messages. I have a guy that was running for Midland sheriff who has secretly recorded as saying that underground homes here was a hideout for the late Sheriff Gary Painter. That was during the election for sheriff. We don't record every conversation, but I have a lot of them recorded. I also have proof the remains of a young girl was found outside of Midland not long after Angie told me about a young girl being murdered at an oil show party 5 minutes from my home. I also took a screenshot of what Tisha Brumley told me. That way it wasn't I said, she said, and that's what I showed you a minute ago. And then I just dumped all them files on my desktop out there. I said, this was some of the evidence I was going to show you, okay? And, and then she's not replying. I said, this is a young girl that I believe was murdered at the underground oil show parties in 2010, and nobody cares because if they did, they would expose the underground homes, and multiple people are documented saying are here. You can see one of them on Google Maps. These people covering this up have the innocent blood of this young girl in their hands. And then I went through here. I said they could ask Rhonda Denman Rogers, who I documented as saying was underground facilities a half block away. They could ask the woman on the phone told me about that I recorded saying there was three four bedroom homes here. Or 4 3-bedroom underground homes there. They could ask previous resident Ricky Ronaldo. Told me him and his brother go in the tunnels under it. They could ask Layla O'Brien, said that she worked on this project, put in for George H.W. Bush. They could ask Sheriff candidate Joe Lozano, who I recorded as saying that it was the hideout for Sheriff Gary Painter. They could ask MPD officers Davis, Dickey, Chadwell, Angel, and Hale, who were time-stepped as being at or inside my home when they were not seen arriving on the security cameras, which saw Woodward and Naylor minutes earlier. This told me they came in from a now removed underground entrance from where I'd been ambushed and shot. They could ask my ex-wife, who told me there was a hidden trap door in my home before I was ambushed and shot. They could ask Angie Mungia Herrley, who told me a young girl was murdered at a party she was at during the 2010 Permian Basin International Oil Show. They could ask Google Maps why they're showing a large bunker in my backyard, which can't be seen from above ground. They could ask Homeland Security Paul, too. I showed him where I believed a tunnel was located, and 2 weeks later, the ground was dug up and concrete was poured. They could ask Lance Eggleston, who told me, we have access to your residence at all times. Nobody will ever believe your story. You will be silent, not it, but when. Or they could ask Shannon Jeter, who told me, buddy, cops can kill you and get away with it. Stop publicizing their business and you go buy you another home. In fact, there are many people who have asked to order me to sell my home who must know something. Okay, and then our final was the remains of the young girl. She didn't reply on any of it. Frustrating once again. That we backed out, and you just know it's it's the same thing that's been going on for years to cover up these crimes, and the crimes are going on all over the country. It's Buddy Webb, Midland, Texas. I sure hope that new governor, candidate reads all this. Buddy Webb, Midland, Texas.